In the last video, we started looking at what modernity was, and what we said was that we can understand modernity as a revolution in the sense of total transformation, which is akin to saying that modernity is a civilizational change. Civilizational change. Now, I want to talk a bit more about this, not the change itself as such, but the nature of change or total transformation. So what we said last time was that revolution or total change or transformation, whether it's at civilizational level or not, if it is a revolution, it normally would consist of two horns, so to speak. So you have long changes happening in a society over centuries. And those long changes can be, if it is a civilizational change, those long changes are going to be in every aspect of life. Can be in a conception of self, for example, how people see them or understand them. It would also be changes in social relations and how we relate to each other and norms and values around that. They can be epistemological changes. Your conception of knowledge changes. Then you can have philosophical or metaphysical changes. Your worldview changes. Then political changes. The relationship between power and its justification, and the relationship between the centers of power and society and centers of power and individual, etc., etc. So you have changes happening, and they happen over a long period of time. And when we are trying to understand a revolution or civilizational change, we can conceive of an outline, but what actually happens, we have to do empirical work for that. But this broad conception of long changes in a society must happen for a long time in order for civilizational change to occur. And the second horn is events. So these changes, culminate in spectacular moments or events, which are generally people associate those with revolution. But those events, though they are very important, they can't happen without the background of long and more profound changes. And if those profound changes are not happening, then really what would be happening would not be a revolution, but more of a reform or a coup and things like that, or superficial change, which is mistaken for a revolution or etc. But those civilizational changes, then culminate in events, and those events can happen over time. So, so you have Russian Revolution, so October 1917. That's an event, when they stormed and actually took over the government. But if Russian Revolution was actually a revolution, then that event was just a culmination of much profound changes within Russian society. Similarly, the event of Iranian Revolution, for example, the return of Imam Khomeini to Tehran from Paris, that's one event, and there are many other events. But if Iranian Revolution was a profound revolution at a certain level, then it must have gone through a lot of changes. And to understand civilizational change, to understand a revolution or civilizational change, we need to understand both these aspects, events and profound changes. And without understanding these both sides of the story, our understanding of modernity would be very skewed. So that's one aspect which I wanted to sort of reiterate and talk about it in a bit more in depth. So when a change in a society happens,